Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat sejahtera to Dr. Lim Hui Lian and audience. Before I begin, let me introduce myself and group members. My name is Nur Anis Atira binti Amran with metric number 151694 along with Nur Aisyah Umairah, Nur Fitriah and Nur Hazwani. We are from Group 1, Tutorial Wednesday 9 to 10 AM of PGT 202E, and in this video, we will present and explain about distinguish the critical features of measurement, evaluation and assessment. We are also going to explain the uses of assessment results. So, first of all, let me introduce about the meaning of measurement, evaluation and assessment. Measurement refers to the process assigning numbers to attributes or dimensions of some physical object are determined. One exception seems to be in the use of the word measure in determining the IQ of a person. The phrase, "this test measures IQ" is commonly used. Measuring such things as attitudes or preference also applies. Other than that, measurement is also the term used to describe the assignment of a number to a given assessment. The number can be a raw score or a score based on a normal distribution curve and describe the degree the students are acquiring the attributes. Measurements of educational attributes is neither easy nor straightforward and no standard instruments are available. Measurements also can be measured by many types of tests such as objective tests, subjective tests, individual tests, and group tests. Let's move to the evaluation part. Evaluation is perhaps the most complex and least understood of the terms. Evaluation is a process of assigning value judgment on a student's performance. Evaluation is concerned with a whole range of issues in and beyond education, lessons, programs, and skills can be evaluated. It produces a global view of achievements, usually based on many different types of information such as observation of lessons, test scores, assessment reports, course documents, or interviews with students and teachers. For example, Adam scored 85% in spelling test, so he is an exceptional student. In order to put together a good evaluation, teachers need to assess and measure several times to determine the true performance of the student. When we evaluate, what we are doing is engaging in some process that is designed to provide information that will help us make a judgment. We evaluate every day. Teachers in particular are constantly evaluating students, and such evaluations are usually done in the context of comparisons between what was intended, such as learning, progress, and their behavior, and what was obtained. According to Ralph Taylor, evaluation is a process of determining to what extent educational objectives are being realized. Besides, I would share about assessment. Assessment is a broad term that includes measurement, evaluation, and testing. It is defined as a process of gathering information for making decisions to facilitate teaching and learning. Assessment is a broad term that includes testing. A test is a special form of assessment. In other words, all tests are assessments, but not all assessments are tests. There are different types of assessment, which is formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative assessment is measurement for the purpose of improving, and summative assessment that has high point of value as assessment taking place at the end with whole evaluation. We test at the end of a lesson or unit. We assess progress at the end of a school year through testing, and we assess verbal and quantitative skills through such instrument as the SPM. Whether implicit or explicit, assessment is most usefully connected to some goal or objective for which the assessment is designed. A test or assessment yields information relative to an objective or goal. Through this, evidence of students' achievement can be obtained and whether or not an objective or goal has been obtained. Next, I will pass to Aisyah to explain more further about distinguish the critical features of measurement, evaluation, and assessment. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to Dr. Lim and all of my fellow friends. My name is Nur Aisyah Umairah binti Abu Bakar. My metric number is 151772. Today I'm gonna differentiate the meaning between measurement, assessment and evaluation. The first one is measurement. Measurement is used to categorize or quantify variables, and it is also used to quantify individuals' achievement, personality, attitudes, habits, and skills. There are two types of measurement. The first one is principle. Principle is where used to determine what knowledge, skills, abilities that have been acquired, and it also to determines the strength and weakness of progress and the need of the students. And the second one is secondary, where it is used to develop the effort of making capacity of students and serve aid for guidance for the counseling and prognosis. The next one is assessment. Assessment is to measure the progress that involve pre-test and post-test. It is also used to determine the strength and the weakness of aspect, whether it is about academic or behavioral aspect. There are two types of assessment. The first one is formative assessment, where the purpose of this assessment is to measure to improve the students' abilities. And the second one is summative assessment, where it has a high point of value as it taking place at the end of the evaluation. Alright, and the last one is evaluation. What is evaluation? Evaluation is important in making judgments on the worth or value of something. It is also considered as qualitative aspect to determine outcome of learning. There are four types of evaluation. The first one is diagnostic evaluation, where it is help to detect students' learning difficulties. And the second one is formative evaluation. Formative evaluation helps to identify errors that need to be corrected. And we move to the third one, which is placement evaluation. It is used to determine knowledge he or she possesses. And the last one is summative evaluation, where it is used for assigning grades and marks, and also provide good feedbacks to students. That's all for me, and I will give it to the next presenter. Thank you.
My name is Norfitrah binti Ahmad, and I will continue the presentation about the uses of assessment result. As we all know, assessment is essential for learning. Thus, assessment has many uses for teachers as well as students. For teachers, assessment is used to assist the teachers in determining the best teaching techniques and procedures. It is vital because the assessment data will help the teachers modify the way of her or his teaching. Assessment also helps the teachers find the best technique to teach students with different abilities or level. For example, if a student cannot understand one topic, then the teacher can use another approach to teach the same topic until they master it. Next, the assessment helps the teacher identify students' strengths and weaknesses. Teachers can use assessment to determine how well their students have grasped or learned what have been taught. So, it is easy for teachers to group or label the student based on their ability. With that, the teacher will easy to focus on how to help the student with the same academic problem. For students, the assessment uses to existing students in stating their learning goals. Assessment helps students know their potential. Through assessment, the technique will be tested and the student will know what are their mistakes and learn to avoid the same mistake again in the future. The assessment result also can make students reflect their potential, especially in academic. Once they get the result and it is not what they are targeting, so they will reflect on it. Hence, students can use continuous assessment to get the information they needed to improve their learning and setting goals. Next, assessment helps to motivate students. For some students, assessment is used in terms of assist them in becoming more motivated and confident in their study. With a lot of assessment, the student will know their capabilities and help them answering any task or exam in the future. I think that's all from me. I will pass the presentation to the next presenter. Thank you.
My name is Nur Hazwani and I will continue this presentation. I will explain about types and approaches to assessment. Formative versus summative assessment. Formative assessment is intended to assist the learning process by providing feedback to the learner that may be utilized to identify strengths and weaknesses. As a result, it can enhance future performance. The result of formative assessment will be used internally by individuals involved in the learning process, such as students and teachers. It is the best choice. Summative assessment is generally used to determine grading and progression preparedness. It is used to assess a learner's overall performance at the end of an educational activity. It is also used to communicate students' ability to external stakeholders such as administrators and employers, as well as provide the foundation for grade assignment. Informal versus formal assessment. Informal assessment combines judgment with other duties such as lecturer comments on a question's answer or preceptor feedback while doing a bedside operation. Formative feedback is frequently provided through informal assessment. As a result, it is less threatening to the learner and less stressful. Informal feedback, on the other hand, is prone to excessive subjectivity and bias. Formal assessment occurs when students are aware that the task they are performing is for the purpose of assessment, such as writing exam. Most formal assessments are also summative in nature, which means they have a bigger motivational influence and are linked to higher stress level. Formal assessment should be held to higher standards of reliability and validity than informal assessment because of their significance in decision making. Continuous versus final assessment. Throughout a learning experience, continuous assessment occurs. Intermittent is perhaps a more accurate description. When student or instructor information of progress or achievement is required to decide the next step or sequence of activities, continuous assessment is the best option. Students and teachers benefit from continuous assessment because it provides them with the knowledge they need to improve their teaching and learning. Continuous assessment, of course, necessitates additional work on the part of both the teacher and the student. A final assessment is one that occurs solely at the conclusion of a learning session. When learning can only be assessed as a whole rather than in pieces, it is the most appropriate method. Final assessment is commonly used for summative decision making. Final assessment cannot obviously be used for formative reasons due to its date. Process versus product assessment. Process assessment focuses on the stages or procedures that underpin a given ability or task, such as the cognitive steps needed in performing a mathematical operation or the technique for testing a blood sample. Process assessment is most beneficial when a student is learning a new skill and providing formative feedback to assist in increasing performance because it provides more precise information. The goal of product evaluation is to evaluate the result or outcome of a procedure. we would concentrate on the answer to the main problem or the correctness of the blood test finding in the scenarios above. Product assessment is best used to document mastery or competency in a certain skill or for summative purposes. Product assessments are generally easier to create than product assessment because they simply require a specification of the finished product's attributes. Divergent versus convergent assessment. Divergent assessment are those that allow for a variety of correct responses or solutions. Acid tests and solutions to the common source of indeterminate questions offered in problem-based learning are examples. In measuring higher cognitive skill, divergent assessments are more authentic and acceptable. However, assessing these types of assessment can take a long time and the judgments that arise are frequently unreliable. There is just one correct response in convergent assessment per item. The best example is objective test item, which highlight the value of this approach in assessing knowledge. Convergent assessments are without a doubt easier to evaluate and score than divergent assessment. Unfortunately, this ease of use sometimes leads to widespread usage of this approach, even when it is incompatible with sound assessment practices. The familiarity and convenience with which convergent assessment instrument can be used leads to two typical evaluation fallacies: the fallacy of fast quantification, the tendency to focus on what is easiest to measure, and the law of the instrument fallacy, molding the evaluation problem to fit the tool.
In conclusion, measurement, evaluation, and testing are all examples of assessment. It is defined as a method of obtaining data in order to make judgment that will make teaching and learning easier. Various approaches are used to assess people at various levels. Assessment assesses whether or not the educational goals are met. When evaluation is done correctly, it promotes learning and teaching while also generating a high-quality learning environment. Furthermore, encouraging students to grow without demonstrating their strengths and weaknesses would be difficult. That's all from our group. Thank you.